Oh, hi guys, how are you? So, today I thought I would talk about macros a little bit because it's been a while since we've really talked about them. Firstly, what is a macro? Well, a macro is basically a simple computer program which can execute some basic instructions, and in World of Warcraft, in Classic, it is a really important part of a game, which is kind of strange if you think about it, but let's look at macros and what we can do with them. So, first of all, to get up the macro screen, press enter on your keyboard and type slash, I believe that's a /, macro. This brings up the macro screen. Let me just check that it's displaying correctly. Yeah, it all looks good. So, macros are divided into two different kinds of macro. You've got your general macros, and then you've got your basic character-specific macro. Now, to make a new macro, it's very simple. You click on New, choose a symbol that you like. Now, in this box here, you can either type a word like fire, but what I typically do is just put a space in here, and that basically allows you to create a macro without a name, and you can basically put the macro on your taskbar wherever you want to put it. So, what the macro allows you to do is in 255 characters, it allows you to put in a little code which will do a lot of spells for you. So I'm going to delete this macro that I've just created. And I'm going to look at this macro here. So you can look up macros for your class online, and they basically will perform different functions for you. This macro is very useful. The primary purpose of this macro is to cast Judgement and to then cast Seal of Righteousness. So the idea is I would initially cast my Seal of a Crusader, then I would use this macro which would do the Judgement, and it would then cast Seal of Righteousness, which is really useful for Paladin, basically. You may notice in this macro here, I have something called startattack. Startattack is really useful to have in nearly every single macro. If you are not attacking the enemy that you are currently selecting, startattack will mean that you attack them. So this is really, really useful because you may not always be attacking the enemy, so it's good to have this in here. Equally, I've got two Paladin abilities, which are abilities which have a little cooldown. So, for example, once every 3 minutes or whatever, I can cast Divine Favour. And at the top here, you might see I have Show Tooltip, Judgement. Basically, what this will do is it'll make the icon basically the same as the Judgement icon. So, okay, that's all fairly simple stuff if you've used macro before. I thought we could add a few bits to this to make it even better. So, the first thing I want to add is I want to use my trinkets. A lot of trinkets basically have, say, every 3 minutes they might increase your attack power or your spell power or something like that. So use 13 and use 14 will basically use both of your trinkets when they are available. You can click save, and save will basically save a macro for use. You can save a macro anytime unless you're in combat. If you're in combat, it probably won't save. So there is a bit of a problem. If I try to use this So I'll click save and I will close the program. If I use my macro right now, you probably can't see it, but let me just move the screen over very quickly. If I use the macro, you'll see there's this horrible red text which appears, which is really annoying. And there's also a horrible noise. So we are going to modify the macro a little bit again. So there we go. I'm going to go back to... Let's add in some more code. And I will leave a link to this code in the description. In fact, I'll put the whole macro in. So at the top, just below Show Tooltip, I'm going to put in this code. console sound underscore enable SFX 0. So what this one will do, it will turn the sound effects off for everything, but that's okay. Now, I'm going to go to the bottom of the macro, scroll down, I'm going to put in some more code. And the code is this. So script UI error frame dot clear, and you've got brackets at the end here. So what this line does is it basically gets rid of a horrible red text on the screen, or rather it doesn't display it. So that's really nice, no more horrible red text. And the last bit of the code basically re-enables the sound once all of this other stuff has been bypassed. So now I'll save this and I'll exit, and I'll quickly move the camera one more time. I don't even think that's necessary, but anyway. Let's try the macro now. Perfect. So as you guys can see, I'm using my trinket on cooldown now. And it also means that I don't get the horrible red text. So this is really good for a lot of different classes. For example, mages, it's very, very good for. I've got one on my warrior, paladin. There's a lot of different macros that you can do. And like I say, look up your specific class macros because they do save you an awful lot of time. One macro which is really, really useful. I'll just have another little look, I think. There's a warrior macro which I've actually been using for years and years and years. I think it's actually in my general macros, which are quite disorganized, by the way. Well, there's a lot of good macros anyway, guys. Some of the macros can actually detect what kind of state you're in. So, for example, I think this is for macro. This macro here, again, I might leave a link in the description to this, or you can look it up yourself. It says if you're not in combat, you change to using your sort of intercept, right? But if you are in combat, then you'll use your sort of berserker stance charge. So basically, this makes it much easier to charge as a warrior. In fact, you can charge once when you're out of battle, then you can charge a second time when you're in battle using berserker stance, which it automatically changes to. So again, there's a lot of stuff that you can play around with, guys. But yeah, I think I'll probably end the video there. Let me know what you think. What is your favourite kind of macro? And I'll go and enjoy the sand a bit more on the sun. Alright, see you guys later.